help me welcome a speaker who will make you laugh, make you think, and most importantly, make you feel alive again. Please welcome Steve Fredlund.
Thank you so much. So, because I'm known as the Safari Dude, I think the first thing we need to do is address the elephant in the room, or the elephant in the classroom, as it were. Over the past couple of years, I've become known as a motivational speaker, and it's one of those titles that kind of makes me want to cringe, because frankly, I'm not really a fan of motivational speakers. When I hear there's going to be a motivational speaker, I like sit in the back near the exit so I can leave if things get a little exuberant, if you will. So I just want to address that right now so all of you know what this is and what this is not going to be, so you can just rest, you can relax. We're not going to be doing a conga line through here. I'm not going to make you tell me your deepest, darkest secret. I'm not going to hypnotize anybody, none of that kind of stuff. So I just want to be clear, because I want you guys just to relax and engage the way that you want to engage. So just to be clear, I'm not Matt Foley. A couple of you, as portrayed by Chris Farley on Saturday Night Live, warning you that if you don't get your act together, you're going to end up living in a van down by the river, right? So we're not going to be doing any of that at all. I'm not going to have you stand up and yell affirmations to the sky, like, I am amazing. Right? If you like doing that stuff, great. Plenty of speakers will have you do that. We're not going to do that here. I'm not going to ask you to turn to your neighbor, look deeply into their eyes, and whisper, you are enough. Now, you are enough. We all know that. But I'm not going to make you do it. So just to be clear, that's how this is going to go down. And I'm not here because I'm any kind of a celebrity. I've never done anything that's propelled me into stardom. I've never won an Olympic gold medal, which seems like a requirement for most motivational speakers. I've never landed an airplane on the Hudson River. Never been captured by pirates. I've never been attacked by a shark. Never had to cut off my own arm in a near-death wilderness experience. Right? These seem to be requirements for motivational speakers. I'm just a guy who was living a good life, a stable life. On paper, everything looked really good, but inwardly, I was just miserable. Unfulfilled, discontent, just sort of longing for something more. And I think that a lot of us are kind of going through that. And eventually, I found my way back to happiness. And so today is really just about sharing a little bit about my journey, kind of what I've learned along the way, in hopes that you can find something, you can pull something out of here that you can maybe apply to your life, or you can share with a loved one to help them become more fulfilled in their life. Maybe more engaged at work, maybe a deeper passion for your vision. So that's really what this is and what this is not. So just relax, enjoy, take it in the way that you want to take it in. It's not going to get weird. If you like weird, you'll have plenty of other opportunities. It's not going to happen today. Okay, so I mentioned that I went through this period of time where I was like good on paper, but inwardly just feeling unfulfilled. And it was about a 20-year period that I now refer to as my quiet ache. It's that quiet ache. It's that feeling like life is good on paper. I really have no reason to complain. I really shouldn't complain because life is so good. I had a good job at a good company. I was happily married, 3 healthy kids. Like everything was good on paper, but inwardly just feeling like, is this it? Is this as good as it gets? And because you feel like you shouldn't be discontent, you don't tell anybody about it. And I was raised Catholic, which means I have plenty of guilt right there, right? So I felt guilty about feeling bad about it. So I didn't tell anybody. I felt guilty. And the way that I figured, it must just be my fault. Because I'm a math nerd, kind of everything works in formulas. It's kind of how I understand. And I had this formula that I thought how life worked, which was work really hard, do everything right, and the world will reward you with a good, extraordinary life. And I knew I was working hard, but things weren't feeling extraordinary. So it must mean that I'm just doing something wrong. So I figured it was my fault. So I thought, I just need to figure out what the right thing to do is, start doing that, and then all will be well. So for about 10 years, I tried everything I could think of, just trying to throw spaghetti against the fridge and try to find that right thing that would give me that fulfilling life that I longed for so much. So I tried everything. I had 8 different jobs over 10 years. I left my corporate actuarial director position at a Fortune 500 company to go work for a small nonprofit in my hometown. They don't put on the brochure that it's about an 80% pay cut. Right? But I was in search of just happiness, fulfillment. That wasn't the answer. Went back to the corporate world in a whole different industry, switch jobs, And what I realized, it really wasn't, the job wasn't the problem. What was happening on the job was just a symptom of the problem. But I tried that. I tried to go back to school. I started 4 different podcasts. One of them was okay, 3 of them were pretty terrible. Right? But I was in search of just trying to find that thing that would give me life. I started a few different nonprofits, and just doing everything I could. I even started a training website to help recreational poker players. I was literally trying everything. And from the outside, it kind of looks like, oh, you're doing some things, you're moving and shaking, and I was still miserable. And now I was just busier. I just had more responsibility. But I mentioned that one of the things that I did was I started a couple of different nonprofits. One of them was trying to raise money to do humanitarian work in Rwanda, Africa. And so I was trying to unite the community of East Central Minnesota to try to do something together. It's such a divisive place. And so we started raising a bunch of money. We started sending it over to our partner over in Rwanda. And then as we started raising more money and building these partnerships, there started to become this pressure to go over there myself, to see firsthand, kind of make sure the money is going to the right places and try to build relationships and understand the impact and the opportunity and all those things. And I was like, as you read, like I was 39 years old. I'd never been outside the United States. I'd barely been outside of Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. And now I'm faced with this decision of, do I go to sub-Saharan Africa, one of the poorest places in the world, northern Rwanda, where there's no electricity, no running water? And I was like, I don't know. Now, for some of you, you're like, I don't see why that's such a hard decision. For me, that was terrifying. But I did the right thing, right? That's what I was supposed to do. So I did it. We put together a team, and we spent 10 days over there. 7 days doing humanitarian work, 3 days on African safari. When they first brought up the idea of doing an African safari, I was like, no, we're not going to do that, because I didn't want this to be a vacation. I didn't want to be perceived as a vacation, our donors and that sort of thing. But the guys said, well, you're going to need to go, and you're going to need to do the safari because you're going to see some really hard things. And you're going to need a few days to kind of decompress from that. And they were right. When you hold a 2-year-old baby that weighs 10 pounds and things like that, it's tough stuff. So we said, kind of went kicking and screaming on that first safari, which is kind of a weird thing to say, right? Really reluctant. But I tell you, we went there, and that whole 10 days basically struck me to the ground. It was an unbelievable experience. The humanitarian stuff, the safari stuff. But the thing is, it wasn't, and this is a picture, I try to explain this picture, often I forget, but people are like, what's the deal with the picture? Okay, so we went and saw this medicine man to kind of understand the culture and stuff with him. And when he was laughing, he was joking, in his own language and stuff. And I'm just laughing along with him. And then he said something through the translator, which busted me up. He has me waving all these leaves around. He says, oh, that's natural Viagra. But it was just these experience after experience that was just so much fun. And I remember getting back from that trip and saying it was beyond just cool, right? Sometimes we go on vacation, we go places, and it's cool. We show a few pictures, and then Monday morning hits, and we're back to work. I couldn't shake the idea that something happened inside of me, that I just become fully alive, that there was something that I tapped into that I just thought, boy, if I could just get a glimmer of that, bring that back home into my regular life, I would just start to feel better about all of my things. So I became a student of breakthrough. I started studying, how does breakthrough actually happen? How does it happen in our personal lives? How does it happen in our teams? How does it happen in our schools, in our communities, in our organizations? And I just started studying everything I could. From organizations like Teach for America, Patagonia, just started learning all those things. I started studying the lives of individuals who I thought had tremendous breakthrough. People like Viktor Frankl, maybe some of you know. He survived the concentration camp, and he wanted to write the book Man's Search for Meaning. How did he have such contentment and fulfillment in the midst of such terrible situations? Studied the life of Amelia Earhart. She's the first woman to fly solo over the Atlantic. Studied the life of Marie Curie, the only person in history to win the Nobel Prize in 2 different scientific categories. Just trying to understand, how are they doing this? How are they having these breakthroughs? In one of my podcasts, I had an opportunity to interview more than 100 guests and ask them, what caused your breakthrough? What was the catalyst? What got you over the hump? Whether it was personal fulfillment or business success or whatever it was. And so I just started studying breakthrough. Never had in a million years would I ever expected to share this with anybody. I was just doing this myself, trying to understand it from my own life. But what I stumbled across has been something that's really been changing lives and changing organizations around the world. And I want to share this with you. I call it the Safari Way Roadmap, and it's these 3 things that we found that are present in every breakthrough. Whether it's a breakthrough to personal fulfillment, whether it's more powerful and effective teams, whether it's in organizations, in schools, communities, wherever, there's these three things that are present in every single breakthrough. And I want to share these with you, but before I do that, I want to make an invitation. Now, you can apply this to every part of your life, your job, your career, your volunteering, whatever, but we only have like an hour or so together today. And so what I want to do is I want to invite you to think about an area of your life. It could be your personal life, it could be your job, it could be your volunteering, your bowling league, I don't know. Think about an area of your life where you could use a breakthrough. Where maybe things are okay, maybe not, but you're just longing for something more. You're just longing for a taste of the extraordinary. And I want to invite you as we go through this to keep this in your mind and start seeing if there's ways that you can apply some of this to that area of your life where you're looking for breakthrough. That's the invitation for today. The first piece of this that we discovered that is critical in every breakthrough is to choose your experience. Now this "your" should probably be in all caps. Choose your experience. As you think about that area of your life where you could use a breakthrough, what kind of experience do you actually want to have? Because if we don't know what kind of experience we want, how do we make decisions? If we don't know what kind of romantic relationship we want to have, how do we make decisions about dating? If we don't know what kind of parenting we want to have, how do we make decisions about our kids? If we don't know what kind of culture we want to set here in the Breckenridge schools, how do we make decisions about that? So I want to give you an example of this from Safari. So to start off, let me ask you guys a question. What do you think of when you think of an African safari? Just shout it out. What do you think of? Elephants. I heard animals. Lions. Jeep. Death. Death. Yeah. What else? What's that? Terrain. Terrain. Sure. Anything else come to mind?
Excitement and danger.
Excitement and danger running side by side, right? Yeah, here for all you visual learners, right? Nobody ever says giraffe because like, well, it's obvious, it's right up there, right? What you guys are thinking of, this is what you typically think of, right? When you think of an African safari, you think of all the things that you're talking about. And these are the things that we experienced on the first 3 times we went to Africa. Things like this. You're driving down the road in a Jeep, you got the terrain. Sometimes it's heavily wooded like this, and you're kind of wondering, what's around the next corner? Sometimes it's more like the wide open views of the Serengeti, but this is kind of what you think of when you think of an African safari. Of course, you think of lions. Sometimes you get to watch them hunt. Sometimes you're sleeping. Sometimes, like this gentleman, just marking their territory. Wildebeest, which are kind of like quirky animals, but they're like everywhere. When you first see wildebeest, you're like, oh my gosh, look at that wildebeest. And then by the end of your trip, you're kind of like, it's just wildebeests. It's kind of like squirrels are here. If you can imagine never seeing a squirrel and then seeing a squirrel, you're like, oh, cool. And then you're like, just kind of squirrel. But wildebeest are everywhere. Of course, zebra, when they're young, they have brown stripes. They turn black as they get older. Now here in a room of educators, maybe somebody knows this. I've only had 2 people ever know this. What do you actually call a group of zebras? Anybody know? What's that? Zeal? There are a couple different names. That might be one. That's not the one I'm thinking of. That might be. Another one is dazzle. Isn't that cool? Because when you look at them, they're kind of like an optical illusion. So a dazzle of zebra. I'm going to look up zeal and see if that's another one. It is. She's like, oh, it is. I'm Google. You don't need to look it up. Okay, I believe you. Okay. Okay, I'll give you credit. I'll now say 3 people have known this one was wrong, but a dazzle of zebra. This is the kind of stuff you think of when you think of safari. You think of elephants. Sometimes they're on their own. Sometimes they're in these big herds that kind of keep coming out of the woods. And of course, you think of giraffes. Friendly, they come out, they wiggle their ears, they say hello. Now, one of my wife's least favorite stories about my trips from Africa to Africa it was the day that I French kissed a giraffe. Now, I don't know why she has a problem with this story. We were in Nairobi, Kenya. We were at like this animal sanctuary where you can like feed the baby elephants. It was just wonderful. But they have this high space where you can actually feed the giraffes. And I know there's some zoos in the United States where you can do this, so maybe some of you have done that. So we were feeding the giraffes. They have these big, long food pellets that you can feed them. Now, every group kind of needs this guy or this gal, you know. I'm that guy in our group. Because I thought, well, what would happen if I put that in my mouth? Anybody else ever would think of this? No, he's like, nobody else would have thought of that? Yeah, that's why I'm that guy, I guess. So I put this in my mouth, and sure enough, the giraffe comes loping over, and sure enough, like this 3-foot-long tongue comes out, goes across my face, pulls the pellet out of my mouth, and at that point I have to admit, the tongue did go inside a little bit. So, not my wife's favorite story, but it was the day I French kissed a giraffe. But this is the kind of stuff that you think of when you think, maybe not that, but specifically, but giraffes. When you think of an African safari, that's the kind of stuff you think of, and that's why I was so confused when I was talking to the guide. We were planning our 4th trip, and he said, so what kind of African safari experience do you want to have? The African safari kind of African safari, right? I don't really understand the question. He said, well, you're thinking about the default safari. It's a good safari. It's what most people think of. It's what most people do. It's what you've done on your first 3 trips, riding around in the Jeep, seeing the animals. He said, but what you don't realize is there are far more options beyond the default that you could choose from. For example, he said, we could go to the Masai Mara in Kenya, go up in a hot air balloon, and track herds of elephants. Anybody up for that one? Few of you? Yeah, we're giving away a trip. No. I still didn't get more hands up. Okay. Tough crowd. Okay, nope. I already saw who raised their hands. Who's going with me? Well, that's something we wouldn't normally think of. He said another thing we could do. I haven't even said what it is yet. I mean, what? Yeah, maybe, yeah. He said we could go down to Tanzania, go out in the middle of the night with big flashlights, and look for Nile crocodiles. It's pretty awesome. Nobody? Like nobody? I gotta find my people here. Okay. He said, well, another thing we could do. Oh, they're so cute and cuddly. Yeah, right. He said we could do this. We could go up to the mountains of northern Rwanda, go up into the volcanic rainforest, and look for mountain gorillas. Few of you? Yeah, we heard that, and we were like, heck yeah, let's do that. So that's what brought us to the side of this volcanic rainforest in northern Rwanda to go see if we could find mountain gorillas. And I tell you, this day was absolutely exhausting. We got up around 3:30 in the morning at the hotel, had a quick breakfast, we were on the road, we got to the base camp around 4:30, 4:45, somewhere there, and right away, they started putting us through training. Have y'all ever been to early morning training of any kind? I mean, it's terrible, right? Caffeine hasn't even kicked in. So we're sitting there, we're like just groggy. We had just come off 7 days of humanitarian work, so we're already physically, mentally exhausted. We're kind of half listening. They're going through training. And then finally they finish this training, and the guide stands up and he points off in the distance, and he says, that's where we're going. Right? Now, I know it looks like I'm in top physical condition. I know, but I'm like, I don't think I'm even going to make it to the base of the volcano, much less go up into the rainforest. And it took us more than an hour just to walk from the base camp to get to the base of the volcano. And then we start going up into the rainforest, and it's not like just walking up any hill or mountain. Not that I have a lot of experience with that, but it looks something like this. It's just this dense, thick underbrush. And so we have 2 guides that are going ahead of us with machetes, and they're just carving a path just narrow enough for us to walk through. So we're walking up the mountain, the incline is getting you, you're crouching down like this the whole time, so your thighs are burning, you got monkeys all around you, some creepy crawlies on the ground, and we're going up this mountain, and now the altitude starts getting in, so it's hard to breathe. And we are like 2.5 hours into this hike up the mountain, and I am seriously second-guessing this decision. Like, what are we doing? I was vocal about it. Like, what are we doing? This is terrible. Why didn't we just go down to the Serengeti? Get a few jeeps, see some lions, have a few laughs. Like, this is awful. And I was right in the middle of kind of second guessing and complaining and frankly whining a bit. And we came to this clearing, and the guide like shushes us. Shh, shh, shh. The family of gorillas that you're looking for is just on the other side of those trees. Well, now we're kind of re-energized, right? Like, okay, we can do this. Yay me, right? And so set down the walking stick. This is actually my walking stick right here. I had to cut it into 2 pieces to get it home if you're interested. That's a walking stick that we use up there. But I set down the water bottle, set down my backpack. I put one of those GoPro cameras on my head just in case we could capture something. And we started making our way single file through the narrow openings of these trees, just kind of wondering, what's this going to be like? And we came out on the other side, and it was like entering this whole new world. We had entered this world where this family of gorillas was just like living their best life. And I remember like it was yesterday, we were looking off in this corner, there's these two baby gorillas. Yeah. I don't recommend them as pets. They are kind of cute, right? But we're watching these two baby gorillas play, and what they would do is, one of them would climb up this bamboo tree. It's a very thin, very flexible tree. So they climb up to the top of this tree, and they would grab onto the top of the tree, and they would use their weight to pull the top of the tree all the way down to the ground. So yeah, if you can picture this, the bamboo tree is like up like this and bent all the way down. It's standing on the ground, holding the top of the tree, gives it one more pull down to get it as low as it can go, jumps into the air, still holding onto the tree, mind you. The tree like snaps straight. When it gets to the top, it lets go, and it goes like flying through the air, somersaulting up the volcano. Unbelievable. Then it like lands in the thick underbrush and kind of rolls its way back down. And while it's rolling its way back down, the other one is doing the same thing. Climbs the tree, pulls it down, jumps in the air, somersaults through the air. And they're doing this just in like this cycle. It's just mesmerizing. It's kind of like watching baby gorilla pole vaulting practice. And you're just captivated. Now every once in a while, one of them would kind of roll a little bit too close to us. So then Mama would have to come over to make sure that we weren't a threat to them. Yeah. So we're watching them play, and then we kind of look over here, and there's other gorillas that they're walking around, they're sitting down, they're eating bamboo leaves, and we're just captivated by this whole thing. And then I feel something on my back. Now, I assume I just backed into a tree, or, my imagination, or a team member was screwing with me or something, But then I feel it again, and I hear... And at that moment, I'm trying to remember what they taught me in training. I don't know. I wasn't really listening. It was like 4:30 in the morning, right? I remember something about submit to their authority or something. That's like all I can remember. So I just freeze, and I start telling myself, head down, don't make eye contact. And every time it would move behind me, I could feel it move because the underbrush below me would shift. And pretty soon it starts moving to the side of me, brushes up against me, and now I see it out of my peripheral vision. It's a massive silverback gorilla. Head down. Don't make eye contact. He keeps on coming, comes right around in front of me. He's like 2-3 feet in front of me. I got my head down, but you can tell what's going on. He's looking right at me. He's got me squared up like this. Just head down. Don't make eye contact. Don't poop your pants. Like literally that thought was going through my head. Now I think normal people are thinking, please don't kill me. I'm like, don't poop your pants. Like not here, not in front of my friends. This would be so embarrassing. The weird things that go through my mind. But he was probably there 4 or 5 seconds. But one of those moments that feels like it's hours. And then finally he kind of gave me one last grunt, and he turns around, he walks out through the woods, and I was able to finally look up and finally see this majestic beast. And I caught the end of this on my GoPro. Yeah, massive. Still kind of gives me chills, even though all these years have passed. Now, when he walked off of the woods, the guide comes over and he's like, are you okay? I'm sure I was just like, and I actually started checking myself a little bit. I think so. He said, that was Agashia. He's the alpha male of the group, and he just wants to make sure that you understand that this is his family and you're on his turf. Yeah, got it. I mean, message received. Now, the way that this works, when you go see the mountain gorillas, you get to spend 1 hour with them. So from the first moment you see them to the moment you have to leave, you get 60 minutes. And I tell you, still to this day, the single greatest hour of my life. No offense to my wife and kids. I've told them the same thing. But watching the gorillas in their natural habitat, the smiles on our team members' faces, the lush green of the rainforest, views over northern Rwanda, which is a place that come to mean so much to me, it was absolutely extraordinary. But here's the thing. That entire amazing, extraordinary experience, none of it would have ever happened if our guide hadn't initially asked us, what kind of experience do you want to have? And kind of pushed us to consider options beyond the default. And that's how it is with our life. Right? The question is, what kind of experience do you want to have in that area of your life where you can use a breakthrough? What kind of experience do you actually want to have? Sometimes we don't really know. And we live our life a little bit like Alice in Wonderland. I'm sure some of you are familiar with this story. When my kids were young, I used to read them bedtime stories. I'm sure some of you have done that with your kids, your grandkids, nieces, nephews, friends' kids, or whatever. But I used to read them bedtime stories, and I always thought a lot of the books were kind of boring. Sorry, no offense to the English folks, right? I'm a math guy. But so in order to spice it up a little bit, I always let my kids choose what accents they wanted for the different characters. And we just kind of rolled with that. And the first time I read Alice in Wonderland, for some reason, they wanted Alice to be British, and they wanted the cat to be from Texas. I don't know why, but once you hear it, you can't unhear it, and that's what they always wanted. Now, I'm not very good at accents, but I remember I would read this, there's this one exchange where Alice approaches the cat, and she says, would you mind telling me, sir, which road I should take? Well, that all depends on where you're trying to go. I said I wasn't very good at them. I don't much care where. Well, then it doesn't matter what road you take. As long as it goes somewhere. Well, it's sure to do that. Now, this has been paraphrased. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And I think that's how so many of us approach our life. It's how we approach our job. It's how we approach our hobbies. It's how we approach everything in our world. Is we don't really know the kind of experience we want to have, so we just take the road that's there. We take the road that's handy. We take the default road. And sometimes that road leads us to a place where our heart is alive. We feel fulfilled. We feel fully aligned with who we are. But a lot of times, taking that default road over years leads us to a place where one day we wake up and we're like, this isn't even really what I want. This isn't even really who I am. And so the first piece of this breakthrough is for you to answer that question. As you think about that part of your life where you're longing for breakthrough, what kind of experience do you authentically want to have? Now, it's a pretty easy question to ask, but it's a very difficult one to answer. Primarily because we've been inundated our entire lives with messages around what we're supposed to want. It's hard to really feel like, what do I actually want when we're so inundated with messages around what we are supposed to want? It starts when we're young. We're born into a family or a family situation or a community where there's a set of defaults, a set of norms. Here's how we think. Here's how we act. Here's what we believe. It doesn't mean it's bad, but we take that in, that's how we're supposed to live. Then we go to school. There's a new set of defaults on how to behave and how to think and how to act. Go to our first job, the same sort of thing. So we have all of these defaults, all of these norms that we've inherited. And as humans, we are predisposed to, we love defaults. We like defaults. It's just one less decision we have to make sometimes, right? Just tell me what I'm supposed to do, right? Especially in education, it's decision fatigue. My wife and my daughter are both educators. I understand this. I got several buddies that work in the schools. We have so many decisions. We just like the default. Just tell me what to do. It's why when you think about countries that have organ donation is the default, like you are an organ donor, unless you opt out, 90 to 95% of people are organ donors. In countries like the United States, where you're not an organ donor, where you have to check the box to say I want in, it's around 10 to 15%. I mean, it's the same logical decision, but we don't want to check the box. We don't want to be different. Just tell me what to do. And I'm not saying that as an indictment. It's just the reality that we are predisposed to default. So when it comes to living our life, around relationships, around jobs, around schools, we tend to just gravitate toward the default. And again, sometimes that works out good. Sometimes it's just not a good fit for who we are. And we don't realize it until years later when we're 20 years into our quiet ache. But we have all these defaults, all these norms that make it difficult. And then we have expectations from other people. Does anybody in this room have anybody in your life who expects anything from you? Thank you, yes. Laughter is the appropriate response. Right? I mean, if you don't, you might as well leave now, like you won life. I mean, honestly, we all have all these expectations on us. Start with romantic relationships, our kids, our parents, our grandparents, our cousins, our workers, our students, the teachers, right? All of these things, school boards, right? All of these people have all these expectations on us. And so we're so busy trying to meet all those expectations, it's hard to really understand, what do I really want out of this? And some of us take meeting other people's expectations to the nth degree, and we're people pleasers. Any fellow people pleasers in the room? A few of you? It's a question I love to ask because it's the only time you actually get an accurate response. Because the people pleasers are like, I'm not going to raise my hand for anything. Oh, he wants me to, I probably should. Right? It's the only time you really get a good gauge of the audience, right? Because none of you all, even if you wanted to see the gorillas, you're not going to raise your hand, but are you a people pleaser? Yeah, right? But we are, and a lot of us are people pleasers. I consider myself a recovering people pleaser, but it's still tough, right? And the way that, if you're not a people pleaser, this might help you understand those in your life. We have all these expectations that are placed on us. And as people pleasers, we're good people. We like to meet those expectations. And if we meet those expectations, somebody might say, thank you. And if they say thank you, maybe that means that they like us. And if they like us, maybe they think we're okay. And if they think we're okay, maybe we are okay. That's what happens in the life of a people pleaser. And so we become addicted to that external validation of meeting everybody else's expectations because it makes us feel like we are okay. And people love us, right? People pleasers? People love you when you're a people pleaser. You'll do anything for anybody all the time, and it's good and it's appreciated. But my point in all of that is it makes it really hard for us to understand, to cut through all of the expectations of other people to understand what it is that we really want. So we have all the defaults that we inherit, we have all the expectations of other people, and then we're getting should on all the time. S-H-O-U-L-D. Right? You ever feel like you're getting shit on? You know what you should do? You should go to that conference. You should take that job. You should read that book. You should go back to school. You should talk to that parent. You should run for that position. You should do that volunteering. You should join our bowling league. You should join the fantasy football league. Whatever it is. We're getting shit on all the time. And we shit on ourselves, don't we? I should lose weight. I should exercise more. I should read more. I should get a different job. I should go back to school. Should. We're covered in should. There's this, I don't know if any of you have heard this before, there's kind of this old myth, don't worry, I don't know anybody that does this, I don't do this, but there's this myth of public speakers, like if you're nervous as a speaker, imagine your crowd naked. I don't know if anybody's ever heard this. It's a myth. I don't know if anybody does that. I don't do that, so don't get nervous. But I do imagine you all covered in shit. I do, because we are. And so we have all these defaults that we inherit. We have all these expectations from other people. We have all these things that we should do, that other people are telling us we should do, and that we're telling ourselves we should do. And my point is, all of those things add up to make it very difficult to answer that question, what kind of experience do we truly, authentically want? And so there's really two questions for you to ask as you think about that area of your life where you could just use a breakthrough. And maybe this is something you bring back to your teams or whatever as well. But the first question is, what kind of experience do I actually want? And the second question is a follow-up to that. Is that actually what I want? Or is that just what I'm supposed to want? This is foundational for breakthrough. If we're serious about finding breakthrough to the extraordinary in our life, in our work, in our leadership, in every part of our life, this is foundational. This is critical. It's where it all starts. Now, the second piece of this is you got to get the right peeps in your Jeep. You just do. Surround yourself with the right people. We know this, right? Now, when you are on an African safari, there are a few things as important as having the right peeps in your Jeep. Now, that might be for enjoyment, that might be for navigation, it might be for safety, You gotta have the right peeps in your Jeep. And it's terrible when you don't, right? So this is Akagera National Park, 2015. We decided to go there for part of our safari because they had just gotten lions into the country for the first time in 21 years. Now some people, if you know, there's one thing you know about the country of Rwanda, is that there was a genocide in 1994. Terrible, awful, horrible. One of the untold stories of that is that at that time, all of the lions in the country were killed. And it was a country known for lions. It was a pride of the country. But they were all killed, either by poachers who had entered the park, or people who were escaping the genocide would settle in the park and they would kill the lions to protect their livestock. But there were no lions in Rwanda for 21 years, until as they rebuilt, South Africa donated 7 lions to Rwanda, and they were released into Akagera National Park in 2015. And we decided we want to go there. We want to be among the first people in the world to see these historic lions. Because, I mean, seeing lions in the wild is cool, but seeing these historic lions that mark the rebirth of a nation, yeah, we wanted in on that deal. So we were there, we were out there, we're in the Jeeps, we're scanning the horizon, we're looking for these lions, these historic lions. You know, we're looking everywhere, guarding our eyes from the sun, just trying to find these things. And I felt really bad. One of our team members, her name was Terry, I felt bad for her because she thought she saw the lions everywhere. She wanted to see them so bad. She'd be like, is that them? Is that them? Like, no, those are termite mounds. Well, they kind of look like lions, I guess. There's no ears and they're not moving, but I guess so. Is that them? Is that them? Like, no, those are elephants that are coming out of the woods far off. Oh, she just wanted to see them so bad. These are the kinds of weird conversations you have on safari, by the way. But she wanted to see them. And then, we're all looking at the horizon, we're all looking for these lions. I noticed one of our team members is sitting down in the back of our Jeep. He's got his feet up on the seat in front of him, and he's scrolling on his phone. Now, I'm sure none of you have ever witnessed this kind of disengagement from students or staff, right? But I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, hey dude, what's up? Something wrong at home, or what's going on? Nope, just checking email. Leadership sucks sometimes. You're 8,000 miles from home. He'd never been to Africa. He's never seen a lion. We're looking for these historic lions that mark the rebirth of a nation, and you're checking email? Ah! Maddening, right? Because it's not just that he's missing out on his opportunity. He's reducing all of our chances of achieving our mission. We need all eyes on deck. We need every eye in all the directions looking for these historic lions. And now everybody else in the Jeep is like, what's wrong with this guy? Dude, what's up? And it starts to erode the chemistry, his level of disengagement. It was very frustrating, but he wasn't the right peep in the Jeep. Now, some people ask about this question, just, yes, that is one of the lions. We did see them. It was very emotional to see that. Obviously, we were happier to see her than she was to see us. But it was a wonderfully powerful moment. But he wasn't the right peep in the Jeep. Now, a couple years before that, we were out in the Serengeti during the Great Migration. Anybody ever heard of the Great Migration? A few of you? Yeah. It's like 2 million wildebeest, 1 million zebra. Picture that. 2 million wildebeest, 1 million zebra, all making their way across the Serengeti at the same time. Just staggering. And we had a front row view for it. We actually went to the Mara River, which separates Kenya and Tanzania, where all the animals were trying to cross the river. And now I did crop out the picture for some of you. Let's just say it was the best day ever to be a crocodile. These crocodiles would just lay in the river with their mouth open, just waiting for something to jump in. There was no hunting. Something would jump in, they would close it, they'd death roll, they'd swim away, another one would take its place. I know it's horrible. Life in the Serengeti is brutal, right? Lion King, circle of life, right? We get it. Terrible. But we're out there, we're watching the Great Migration. It's just unbelievable. And then I get word that one of our team members in another Jeep is crying. Oh, shoot. Well, as a leader, I got to go figure out what's going on there. Now, a couple of years before this, I learned you don't just pull over anywhere on the Serengeti. Like, insert story of me almost being eaten by a lion. That's another story for another time. But you don't just pull over anywhere. So it took the driver about a half an hour to drive somewhere where he felt it was safe for me to get out and go talk to the person in the other Jeep. So I get out, I go start talking to her, and it turns out she's very upset because she had bought this nice white safari outfit. Yeah. It was getting dirty. Now, I consider myself a man of compassion, but I was struggling in that moment. We talked about this. It's July, it's Tanzania, it's the dry season, it's going to be dirty and dusty, and look, we're all covered in dirt and dust. Isn't it awesome? She was very upset, and now everybody else is frustrated because we just spent an hour driving there and back, missing out on the Great Migration, right? You only have so much time while the park is open. People are like, we stopped for this? It was absolutely maddening. She wasn't the right peep in the Jeep. Now here's the deal. Being the right peep or not is not about if they're good people or bad people. Phone guy, outfit gal, no, they both have nicknames now. But phone guy and outfit gal, they're both wonderful people. I see them all the time. My wife and I just had dinner with her and her husband. They are really good people. This is not about if they're good people or bad people. The right peeps in the Jeep are those who are aligned with the mission that we are on. I talked to him later, kind of finding out what was his story. He said his vision for an African safari was to go take pictures of giraffes and send them home to his wife. It's a perfectly legitimate safari experience. But we were all looking for these lines of Akagera that mark the rebirth of a nation. See, there's a misalignment. He was on a safari, he wasn't on safari. He was on a mission, he wasn't on mission. He wasn't lined up with the mission that we were on, which made him the wrong peep in the Jeep. Now her story, she's an Instagram influencer, which some people kind of roll their eyes at, but she makes some pretty good money doing that. So her vision for an African safari was to go in her nice white outfit, take some selfies and videos with the animals in the background, post them on Instagram, increase her followership, increase her engagement, increase her revenue. Perfectly legitimate safari experience, but not for Tanzania in July. See, she was on a safari, she wasn't on safari. The right peeps in the Jeep are those who are aligned with the mission that we are on. And so when we start talking about our personal life, the right peeps in the Jeep are those who are going to support us and encourage us according to the mission that we are on, according to the experience that we want to have. They're not going to have a hidden agenda. They're not going to try to get us to be somebody that we're not. They're going to come alongside of us and say, what kind of experience do you want to have? How can I support you? How can I encourage you in that? Those are the right peeps in the Jeep. Now, I put this picture up here because I just like the picture. Some of the people from the Jeep know. I have to note, this is not white outfit gal, okay? Some people are like, oh, I hate her. No, don't hate her. She's not the one, right? But these are the peeps in the Jeep. And one of the things that I've learned along the way, as far as the importance of getting the right peeps in the Jeep, is that we have more power, we have more agency than we realize in curating our own Jeeps. I think a lot of times we think we're just stuck with the people that we're stuck with. But what I've learned is even as a people pleaser, we can bring people in, we can kick people out, we can move people around. When I was going through that period of my quiet ache and I started coming out of it and I started assessing, like, what kind of experience do I really want to have? One of the things I realized is I just want to laugh more. When I was a kid, I used to laugh all the time. I grew up and I'd prank call everybody before caller ID. Some of you are maybe able to remember that or whatever. Like, I would prank call everybody. Like, it was so much fun. I loved it. We would have fake radio shows. We were doing all kinds of just fun stuff, just laughing. I grew up, I wanted to be Weird Al Yankovic. Some of you who maybe remember him, like, I wrote parodies. I typed out 50 parodies and I would sing them, you know. I just love to laugh. And when I was going through this, I realized, when's the last time I actually laughed? Like, really laughed? I couldn't remember. I was in my mid-40s and I couldn't remember the last time I actually had a belly laugh. And so one of the things I realized is I need to surround myself with people who are going to make me laugh. So I made a list of all the people I thought I could potentially bring into my Jeep that could make me laugh. And I came up with 2 names, which was pretty disappointing. I'm an actuary, which means I know a lot of smart people, a lot of kind people. I don't know any funny people. Right? Math nerds don't tend to be the funniest people in the room. But there was 2 people on the list. One of them was my wife's cousin's husband. His name was Chris. I would see him like once or twice at family gatherings. And I'd be sitting on the couch with people, you know, having this serious grown-up conversation. And he'd be over in the corner like holding court, right? You know these people that are at the family gatherings, and everybody's just around them, they're all just laughing and having this great time, and I'm just like, I kept thinking, how do I get to the cool kids table? Like, how do I get over there, right? And I decided I need to have more Chris in my life. So I got his phone number from somebody, I gave him a call, and I was nervous. I'm like 50 years old, and I'm afraid, like I feel like I'm a 14-year-old calling somebody, asking somebody out on a date. And I'm like, hey, Chris, Steve Fredlund here. He's like, yeah, I know who you are. Oh, okay. I said, would you ever want to, like, I don't know, sometime maybe, I don't know, would you, it was literally like this. Like, you ever just want to grab lunch sometime? He says to me, are you asking me out on a date? So I'm laughing already, and I said, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. And we just went, we had like Mexican food for 90 minutes, and we just laughed. And I don't know if it meant much to him, but it just was so nourishing to my soul to reconnect with that part of me. We have more agency than we realize in inviting the kinds of people into our Jeep that we need based on the kind of experience we want to have. Now, we also have the power to kick people out. Now, this one's harder, especially as a people pleaser, but I've started doing it. And I'm throwing up in my mouth every time I do it. But I tell you, there's been nothing as empowering as now surrounding myself with the people I need to be surrounded with, based on the experience I want to have. And we can talk afterwards if you want about how to do that. There are some tricks I've learned from being in human resources that have kind of helped me. But sometimes we don't have to kick somebody all the way out, or we can't. Like, we all have our version of Uncle Bill. Like, what we really want to do with Uncle Bill or Aunt Janet is we want to kind of rub them down with raw hamburger, and kind of throw them in the tall grass, kind of see what happens. And that's kind of what we really want to do with them. Okay, you guys are all nicer than me, but you all know what I'm talking about. But we can't because they're family. Right? But we don't need to have Uncle Bill sitting on the front seat right next to us with his voice in our ear the whole time. We can put him on the luggage rack. Put him on the back bumper, I don't know. But I think sometimes we let these people have these voices sit right next to us in our Jeep that are just negative, or they're not lined up with the experience we want to have. And I want to tell you, it might be hard, especially if you're a people pleaser, but there's been nothing more empowering when you start getting people surrounding you that are the right people, that are encouraging you, supporting you according to the experience you want to have. And this is true in our work world as well. I spent 7 years as a human resources actuary. I could bore you with research. I won't. But let me just tell you, what drives powerful teams, what drives contribution to every organization is when people are aligned with your vision, your values, and they're connected with your mission with each other. And if you're a leader in the school district, or if you have a team, just take that away. What can you do in terms of attraction, selection, onboarding, management that's going to help people feel aligned with what it means to be here at Breckenridge, with what it means to be a cowboy or cowgirl? What are those things that are going to help people feel aligned to that? To your vision, to your mission, help them feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. That's how we drive productivity, engagement, retention, team building, all of those things. That's free of charge. I wasn't planning on talking leadership. But it's the same principles that apply to our daily life, our regular life. Surrounding yourself with the right people is less about if they're good or bad, or if they have money, or if they have the right resume. It's, are they aligned with the mission that we are on? Are they going to be on safari with you in your life, in your work, in your leadership? More peeps in the Jeep. Okay, the final piece of this, and this is kind of, I'll say the secret sauce, but all of these are just as important. But this is the one that most of us miss. We choose our experience, we surround ourselves with the right people, but the real key to having breakthrough, personally, professionally, as an organization, as a school, is to do the unright thing. And let me try to explain the best I can. So a lot of us, we grow up our whole lives trying to do everything right. We try to get the right grades, we try to make the right friends, we try to go to the right school, we try to get the right job, we try to climb the right ladder, we try to have the right house, we try to have the right kind of pet, whether you're a dog or a cat person. I won't get in the middle of that whole argument. Right, we try to have the right boat and go on the right vacation. We're trying really hard to do everything right. And like what I said earlier, I feel like we have this unwritten agreement with the universe
that says if we work really hard and if we do everything right, the universe is going to reward us with a life that's extraordinary. Like our romantic relationships are going to be right out of the movie The Notebook. Again, I'm dating myself. Pick your favorite rom-com. That's what it's going to be like. Our friendships are going to be just like they show in beer commercials. We're going to be at the pool with the beach ball. It's going to be amazing, right? And our career is always going to be success after success. That's kind of what we buy into. If we work hard and if we do everything right. Which kind of leads to one of the core questions for today, which is this. Why is the extraordinary so elusive? A lot of us are longing for something more. We're longing for breakthrough. We're longing to just touch the extraordinary. Why is it so elusive? Because most of us are still clinging to this long-held belief that the extraordinary is the result of consistently doing everything right. When in reality, the extraordinary is reserved for those who have the courage to take the road less traveled, to color outside the lines, think outside the box, maybe even dare ask that defiant question, what box? I refer to this as doing the unright thing. The unright thing, it's not the wrong thing. I'm not talking about doing things that are illegal or immoral. The unright thing is not the wrong thing. It's that thing that you wouldn't normally do that puts you in a position where the extraordinary could happen. It doesn't always happen, but it puts you in a position where it could happen. And once we started discovering this, and I started living this out, it has radically changed my view on life, and it has radically changed my enjoyment and fulfillment. So I want to give you a few examples of how I've lived this out, but my hope is that you can see yourself in it, and start asking yourself the question, what is my unright thing? What is that thing that I could be doing that's going to put me in a position where the extraordinary could happen? Either your personal life, or maybe here at work, or your hobbies, or in every part of your life. The first one is, so this is 2015. This is the night before we saw the mountain gorillas. We were driving through the mountains of northern Rwanda. Again, no electricity, no running water. The driver would get out every few minutes to rearrange the wooden boards that were going over a crevice so that they lined up with his Jeep, so we didn't fall down the mountain. Interesting drive. That was the drive. Well, we were driving through the mountains. On our way to the hotel, I noticed this group of kids that were playing soccer down in this field. And I asked the driver to stop the Jeeps. I said, we want to go play with those kids. He said, well, we can't. We're on schedule. We're expected at the hotel. They're going to have dinner ready for us when we arrive. I said, well, I understand that, but you don't understand the kind of experience we want to have. It includes like having these spontaneous interactions with the locals and trying to really understand what is life like in this part of the world. He said, well, I appreciate that, but we're on schedule. They're expecting us at the hotel. They're going to have dinner ready for us when we arrive. So at that point, I had to kind of pull out the card that we don't, as leaders, as parents, we don't really like to pull out, unless we have to. It's the I told you so card. You guys know that card? Because I told you so, right? You try to reason, you try to logic with your kids, but at some point, it's like, because I told you so. So I told him, I just kind of reminded him who was paying for the trip. I said, don't worry. I said, when we get there, I'll make sure they understand it's not your fault, it's my fault. We will overtip the staff. We'll apologize and all those things. I said, we got some leftover soccer balls. We got some air pumps. I want to give those to the kids. And so he did pull over. We sent our translator down to talk to the kids to make sure that they were comfortable with what was going on there. And we went down there. We brought them the soccer balls. We brought them the air pumps. We showed them how to use them. And we just laughed. We kicked the balls around at the kids, and they were just smiling. In that part of the world, it's very customary for them to hold our hands, so they'd be holding our hands. It's just this beautiful, wonderful moment. Now, a couple of the kids were holding my left hand, and they were rubbing my forearm and giggling. And I didn't really know what was going on there. So I asked the translator, I said, so what's going on there? They said, well, in this part of the world, they can't grow hair in their bodies because of malnutrition and undernutrition. So they're trying to figure out what that is in your arm. And they're giggling because they're a little nervous that you're maybe one of the gorillas that escaped from the north. So at that point, I was kind of really glad I had long pants on, because I probably really would have scared them, right? But it was just fun. It was just this beautiful, wonderful moment. And at the end of our time together, the kids gave me their homemade soccer ball. And of course, you don't accept things at first, but they wanted me to have it. The driver said, you should take it. And so that's what this is right here. If you're wondering what this is, if you want to see it later, just plastic bags and twine. It really is my most treasured possession, so please don't steal it. But it was just this wonderful moment, this extraordinary moment that never would have happened if we had done the right thing. The right thing to do, clearly, stay on schedule, get to the hotel on time, honor the wait staff that prepared the meal. That was the right thing to do. What we did wasn't the wrong thing, it was the unright thing. That thing that you wouldn't normally do that puts you in a position where the extraordinary could happen. And now I can't even imagine not having that memory. The question is, what is your soccer ball story? What are those things that maybe you're missing out on because you're trying to do everything right? Trying to stay on time, trying to stay on schedule. And I get it, that's honoring. But I want to encourage you, I want to challenge you, at least think about that. When you think about your personal life, when you think about school, taking that moment to engage with the kid, even though the bell maybe just rang. That moment to say a kind word to the counselor or the custodian or the cook or the para that's working their butt off for hardly any pay. It just takes a second. The things that you wouldn't normally do that can create these extraordinary moments. What is your soccer ball? Another example, so this picture makes me want to throw up. I'm hoping none of you are sports fans. If you are, I apologize. Any sports fans, any college sports fans that understand what's going on here? One. Okay, good. I only have to apologize to you then, probably. So this is me at Ohio State University Stadium. It's called the Horseshoe. And I've got the whole Buckeye garb going on. I got the Buckeye beads right up here on my sweatshirt. So there are a few things in college sports that I hate more than the Ohio State Buckeyes. Maybe the Michigan Wolverines, that's about it. I'm fifth generation, Cambridge, Minnesota, right? Bleed maroon and gold. I love the Gopher sports. Why am I at Ohio State Stadium, a place that I despise, of a team that I despise, of a university that I despise? Most people assume I lost a bet. That's not the case. And you don't need to be a sports fan to hopefully get this analogy, right? Okay, so when I was young, I grew up really poor. My mom was divorced, abusive father. We lived in the basement of a house, just my brother and I and my mom. No TV, no money, nothing like that. But I loved college sports. And so every Saturday during football season, my mom would drive me out to my grandparents' farm east of Malacca, Minnesota. Some of you maybe know Malacca. They lived on a farm out there, and I'd go there just to watch college football. And this is back in the day where there's like 2 games on the whole weekend, not like now where you can watch them all the time. And I would lay there watching their little 13-inch black and white TV. And if some of you are old enough, you remember this is cliche, but it happened. I'd have to lay there and kind of hold the dial between channels 4 and 5, so it would come in. You remember the actual dial, right? And they had the rabbit ear antenna, the whole tinfoil, the whole thing. But I would lay there just mesmerized. I grew up in Delbo, Minnesota. 4 houses in downtown Delbo. Right? And here I am watching in this little magic box as 110,000 people are packed in one stadium, raising their voice in unity for the home team as they come running out of the tunnel. And I just thought, what would that be like to be part of that? They had all the pageantry of college football and the marching band at halftime and the Script Ohio and the Dot the I and all these amazing, amazing things that I would watch week after week. And I always told myself, someday I'm going to go to a game like that. I just want to know what it feels like to be part of 110,000 people united over anything, right? Now more than ever. But I never did. I could have, but I kept thinking, it's not the right thing to do. I kept getting older and older and older. A couple of years ago, I finally finished my book, and I said, screw it, I'm going. I got 1 airline ticket to Columbus, Ohio, 1 ticket to the Gophers playing the Ohio State Buckeyes, 1 night stay at the Red Roof Hotel a few blocks from campus. And I just went, and my daughter, this mortified her. She's like, she hates when I do anything alone. I don't know if you're like this or if you have kids like this or whatever. Like, if I go see a movie by myself, she's like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed for you. I'm embarrassed. This guarantees nobody's going to be next to me eating too loud, right? I mean, nobody's going to be talking
next to me. But it mortified her, and I had buddies that are like, hey, you want me to go with? I'm like, no, not on this trip. This is kind of an experience I need to have. And I went by myself. I arrived on campus 4.5 hours before kickoff, because I'm that guy. I think I'm going to be there, my first one there, get the lay of the land. There's like 15,000 people there. They're handing me hamburgers. We're playing cornhole. I'm buying the whole Ohio State gear and all this stuff. It was absolutely amazing. And the game came, and I'm emotional. I'm weeping. I'm lifting a glass to my grandparents. It's not about football. It's about doing that thing that you've always wanted to do that you've never done because it never seemed like the right thing to do. That's my question for you. What is your Ohio State Buckeye game? What is that thing that you've always wanted to do, secretly or you've shared it, that you've never done because you never feel like it's the right thing to do? I want to encourage you to do it. Sing karaoke. Do stand-up comedy for a night. Start a book club. Start painting. I don't know. It's your thing. Right? Find that. Do it. A couple of years ago, I was in West Virginia. Y'all ever been to West Virginia? Anybody? A couple of you? Yeah? Okay. So I've never been to West Virginia, but my mom's favorite song growing up was Country Roads. You know, it's almost heaven, that whole thing. Right. So she would always be singing that song, and so when I'd be riding my bike around the dirt roads of East Central Minnesota, I'd be singing the song. And so West Virginia had this like mystical, magical view in my brain, right? Like, oh, someday I want to go to this magical place called West Virginia, right? And so a couple of years ago, I was invited to go out there and speak to a group of school nurses. So I'm out there, and I shared this story with them about my mom loving the song and all, never been there and all this kind of stuff. I finished my talk, I'm walking off, and they're actually introducing the next speaker, and this woman in the back stands up, and she yells, Linda! I'm sorry? Linda! I'm like, I got nothing, right? Like, I got nothing. Like, what do you do in this situation? I turned to the guy who's basically serving as my translator the whole trip. And I highly recommend if you go to West Virginia, bring a translator. Like, no offense, but seriously. He said to me, he said, she sings, sing it now. Sing it now! I look at the event planner, and she's like, oh. Now, what I would have always done, what the right thing to do was to say, thank you, that's super sweet. Let's talk after. I want to make sure the next speaker has their fully allotted time. That's the right thing to do. But I've been trying to lean into the unright thing. Now, the wrong thing would have been for me to start singing. Let's just say that right now. I said, okay, I tell you what, if you come up here and lead us in singing, we'll sing it right now. And this is her. She comes up front, 120 school nurses rise to their feet, because this is like an anthem in West Virginia. Did you guys know this? Like, I didn't know that people stay in this like football stadiums after and they all sing Country Roads together. Like, I didn't know this. They didn't need to be prompted. They just rose to their feet and they started singing loud and proud Country Roads. And I just start weeping, which is pretty much what I do now. Like, this stuff should come with a warning, right? May cause salty discharges. I'm just weeping because I'm thinking about my mom singing it all the time. I'm thinking about me riding my bike as a little kid. It was just this beautiful, wonderful moment that wouldn't have happened if I'd done the right thing. It was extraordinary. Sometimes we don't do things because we're worried what people will think. We're embarrassed. We want to do things right. We don't want people to judge us. I think there's things that we're missing out in life because we're afraid to say, come up front and sing it now. It was this wonderful, beautiful moment. What is your unright thing? What is your West Virginia School Nurses Country Roads thing that you've always wanted to do or you've been invited to do, but you say, oh, no. That's not me. Even though secretly inside, you'd love nothing more than to sing that song with a group of school nurses. And one more example, this is probably the most embarrassing of all of them, so I'll quick go through it. Yeah, that's me on the Netflix show Love is Blind. What? Yeah. I'll quickly share this one because this is a big unright thing for me. So I was an officiant on the season 8 when they filmed it in Minneapolis. They approached me out of the blue, because I do wedding officiating on the side.
And they asked me to be on the show. I'm like, well, what is this? Oh, the only thing I knew about it is my daughter's favorite show. So they said, well, go on the show. So I watched the show. I watched an episode, a regular episode, and I watched a wedding episode. And I called them back and I said no. I said, this is not my thing. I'm not really a reality TV guy. I don't want to do this thing. It's not really my thing. But then I had this unright thing going in the back of my brain. What if I did this? What would be my daughter's reaction? Especially if she didn't know I was going to be on the show. So that's what caused me to do the unright thing. I said, yep, I'll do it. So I went and did it. Actually got to marry some people. Sorry if it's a spoiler, right? But we did the wedding a year before it aired. And I'm terrible at keeping secrets. I kept it a secret from my daughter for an entire year. And then about a half an hour before the wedding episode dropped, because they released them kind of over time, I'm out in Vegas preparing for a talk the next day. She video calls me. And I'm like, she doesn't normally video call. She'll text, she'll call, but not really video call. It's like a half hour before it dropped. I'm like, oh, I wonder if she found out. Now, oh, this is being recorded, I'll be careful. But so she's calling me, she's sitting on her toilet, and her brain is melting. She's like, I just saw an Instagram trailer, and what the hell are you doing on this show? It's like, my brain is melting. I thought my phone was glitching. What's going on here? And doing the show is fun. It's kind of a fun story and all those things. But I did it primarily just for that moment. Right? I think there's things that we normally would say no to. This clearly wasn't my thing. It was actually more fun than I thought it would be. It really was a good time. I got some good stories. But I said yes because I'm trying to lean into doing the unright thing. It could have bombed. It could have been terrible. I might not have married anybody. That's kind of the fate of the show. But it turned into this great, extraordinary story. And so my question for you is what is your love is blind moment? What is your thing where you've been offered, you've been invited to do something where your immediate reaction is no? I want to invite you just to think for a moment when those invitations come. Maybe it's something you could do. Maybe it's something that puts you in a position where the extraordinary could happen. That's the invitation. That's what the power of doing the unright thing is. We start to change our mindset from immediately, no, that's not me, that's not the right thing, to just being willing to do some things. I'm not saying you have to go skydiving and do something perilous, that sort of thing. If that's your thing, do it, right? I had, after the school nurses thing in West Virginia, I got this email from a woman. And it was just a Gmail account. I didn't know she was with the school nurses. I had no idea who this was. It was just a Gmail account. And all it said was, I got a nose ring. Now, if you get an email like that from a complete stranger, what do? I mean, most people, you delete, mark as spam, but I'm this guy. I'm like, what the heck is this? All right, so I'm going to respond. And so I replied, all I said was, cool. Could I have some more context? That's all like, who does? I mean, what am I doing? I'm sure I'm opening my life to spam and stuff. Anyway, so it was one of the school nurses that was emailing me. And then she sent me like a 3-page email explaining how her entire life, she's in her mid-50s, her entire life, she doesn't know why, but she'd always wanted to have a nose ring. She doesn't know why, but she's so afraid of what her parents will think. Still. After the talk, she made an appointment. She went and got a nose ring. And later she sent me like 3 really too close-up pictures of nose ring. Like, I kind of got the point. But she said, I finally did it. And she said it was so empowering. It's not about the nose ring. It's about finally doing that thing that she'd always wanted to do. She said her parents are fine. Her grandkids make fun of her. But she loves it. That's what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be big. It's doing those things you've always wanted to do, but we're so afraid. We're afraid of what people will think. It's the invitation to kind of step out and do those things that are going to give us life. What is your unright thing in your personal life? What are those things that you've always wanted to do that you've never done because you're so afraid of what people will think? The invitation is to go do them. What are those things that can put you in position where the extraordinary could happen? And what are those things that work? My wife teaches, my daughter teaches, I got all kinds of friends that work in the school. I don't know firsthand, but I hear all the stories about how tough it is. I know you guys are in a situation, you're all trying to do more with less, right? Funding is tough. What are those unright things that you could do to not only help you feel more engaged and more excited about work, but they're actually going to change the fabric of the community, that can change the lives of these kids and their families? Some of you maybe have this idea of how you could do more with less, or some big idea that you've been sitting on for too long, that you're afraid what people will think when you bring the idea, or you're afraid to collaborate with somebody who feels like a competitor, or they're on the other side of the wall, or they're upstairs and you're downstairs, or they're in a different pod, or they're in a different school, or whatever all these things that we make up that keep us from collaborating. Share those big ideas. Bring them up. Maybe those are the things that are going to help you get where you're trying to go as a school. Well, I want to just spend a couple minutes. We'll bring this all together. I know we're at about time. But part of this whole message is about embracing the adventure. Life is an adventure, just like an African safari. Work in education specifically is an adventure, just like an African safari. There are ups and downs. There's highs and lows. There's knowns and unknowns. You don't always know what's around the next corner. You don't know what's lurking in the shallow water. You don't know what's waiting in the tall grass. Working in education in your life is like an adventure. And there's going to be things that happen, good and bad. But that's the very nature of adventure. This is what it means to be human. This is what it means to have the human experience. I don't mean to be a downer about this, but our life is going to continue to have ups and downs, highs and lows, knowns and unknowns. It's the very nature of adventure. And the invitation is to figure out, how do we embrace the adventure? Because there are times when you're on African safari where you have mechanical breakdown, engine failure, you get stuck in the mud, you have a flat tire. Are there times in our lives where you feel like you've got a flat tire, been stuck in the mud? Times at work where you feel stuck in the mud? Part of the adventure. There are times in African safari where you're surrounded by elephants, which at first is actually really cool, until you realize you could die. Actually, we were surrounded by elephants one time. I can tell you a really long story about it, but I have a video of me saying this on video, and I don't actually remember saying this, so I'm glad we have the video. But I said to the team, I said, I don't know if we're going to live or die, but let's have fun in case we live. Like, who says these things? I said that. That's how it felt. My screensaver on my phone is an elephant like 15 feet from us coming right at us. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. But I saved that picture to remind myself that life is an adventure. There are times in our lives where we feel surrounded by elephants. There's times in our jobs, in education, as a school district, where we feel surrounded by elephants. Maybe it's kind of cool, but we don't know what's going to happen. They could tip it over and trample us. We don't know. It's part of the adventure. We've been on safari. We've been mugged by baboons, which sounds kind of funny to say the words mugged by baboons, but we were. We came out of the lodge. Like 12 of them came out of the trees out of nowhere, pushed us back up against the building. They had us surrounded. They ripped the bags out of our hands, dumped them all out, went through everything. They were tasting like wet wipes. They were tasting everything. Literally, they took our Cliff Bars, took our bananas. They ran off in the woods. They started shotgunning Cliff Bars. Right? And as a leader, I'm like, who brought food? You weren't supposed to bring food. But it was scary, right? If it sounds cute, look up what a baboon's teeth look like, and you'll find out it's not so scary. But there are times in our life where we feel like we've been mugged by baboons. There's times at work where we feel like we've been mugged by baboons. Maybe it's the parents, right? Maybe it's the community. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's the kids. There are those times. This is part of the adventure. Ups and downs, highs and lows, knowns and unknowns. Now, what we have found is that the people that struggle the most with happiness and contentment and fulfillment and even success are people who are still trying to curate a life that's free from anything bad ever happening. Now, I get it. I'm a father of 3. I was in risk management for a number of years. I understand the desire to try to make our lives something fully insulated where nothing bad can ever happen. But the reality is we can't. We can't control global pandemics. We can't control recessions. We can't control what people decide to do with guns. We can't control medical reports, something we're walking through as a family right now. We can't control all the decisions our kids are going to make. When they're 6 months old, you throw them in a car seat in the back of the car, you're like, oh, this is easy. Control is an illusion. Right? The people that are the most content, the most fulfilled, and frankly the most successful are those who have learned to embrace the adventure. It doesn't mean we like all the bad stuff. I wish I was one of those people that could say every time a bad thing happened, thank God, I'm so glad that happened. If you can do that, more power to you. I'm not one of those people. We don't have to like the bad things that happen. But what happens is when we start to learn to embrace the adventure, we recognize this is part of the story. This is what it means to be human. This is a chapter from my book. This is a scene from my movie. This is part of my story. And as we start to see life as an adventure, we lean into the ups, we lean into the downs, we surround ourselves with people who can be on the journey with us. That's the safari way. That's how we start living a life of breakthrough. That's how we start finding greater fulfillment. We choose our experience, we get the right peeps in the Jeep, and we have the courage to do the unright thing. That's how we lean into the adventure. Because we don't always know what's going to happen next, do we? Like this picture? What's going to happen? This is how life feels. This is how working education feels sometimes. You got the cheetah on the top, you got the cheetah on the back. What's going to happen? Maybe the cheetahs come inside the Jeep, they lay down on our laps, and they purr while we pet their bellies. It happens. Or they come into the Jeeps, and they rip our faces off. That could happen too. In this particular case, the other cheetah jumped on top of the Jeep, and they both started urinating like crazy. This is life. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen next. My invitation is to start seeing your life as an adventure. Start seeing the work that you do here at Breckenridge as an adventure. Helen Keller said, life is either an epic adventure or it's nothing at all. I invite you to have it be an epic adventure. Now, if you want to connect with me, great. I consider myself a peep in your Jeep. I want to serve you. I want to help you. I can send you more resources, especially around team building. I do have my book out there if you're interested. It's called Do the Unright Thing. It's just sort of my memoir, my story of always pushing down the things I really want to do because it's not the right thing to do. But also, if you want to just connect in any way, shape, or form, if I can come alongside of you in any way, I am a peep in your Jeep. So just reach out. You can do it through the QR code, email me, phone call, whatever it might be. I just want to say one final thing as we wrap up. And I know we're a little bit over. I apologize for that. I got too worked up in the stories. So when you go on an African safari, you go into the parks and they have a closing time. Okay, and it's like non-negotiable. Like you go in, they have a closing time. If you are in the park when it closes, you will get fined. You might get arrested right on the spot. Like it is no joke. In our lives, we also have a closing time. We don't know if it's a week from now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now, we don't know. But there is a closing time, and it's non-negotiable. And so the question I really want to leave with you all as you go from here and after these multiple days of learning and training and networking and all these things, is what kind of experience do you actually want to have here at Breckenridge in the time that you have remaining before your park closes? Thank you.
Thank you again, Steve Fredlund. For those of you who'd like to check out Steve's books, he does have a table set up right outside. So as you're leaving, you can feel free to check that out. And I want to just thank you for an excellent, long, packed-in 3 days. I know 3 days, when you think of the grand scheme of things, it isn't much time, but we sure do pack in a lot in these days. And so I thank you for your collaboration, for your commitment to our schools and to our students, and let's make it the best year yet.